got it out of the other tap thinking it might be a better color, but
No.
I don't think it is, and I was too lazy to walk all the way out to the car. Well, on Tuesday night I had one taste of it and it was still full of chlorine, so that was the end of that.
How's the testing going?
I think it's working. Well, Bob was raving about it.
Yeah?
He was showing Alan and it's, well, the test, the can in the middle of the road.
They're running a test on a particular kind of treatment with a copious water system.
Ceramic disconnect.
Ceramic filters is what it is.
No chlorine?
I don't know whether there's,
A lot of insults.
yeah, and I don't know whether the silly Vancouver Coastal Health wants to still have chlorine in it, because that's how they know that the pipe you're playing, right, is the chlorine residual when you get to the end of the line.
It'll still be chlorine, but it'll be like 5% of what we're putting in now. Is it? Yeah.
Turn on the tap and look at it.
I'd be interested to find out what our water in Vancouver, the chlorine content of that. Because I don't know if you noticed in the
I
bathroom in the
just
office.
had
I don't know if
a
that
frozen juice before I left because I assumed it was.
it smells like smoke.
So if anybody wants veggie, you guys don't want sandwiches?
I'm going to it in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Jackie's has taken something other than veggie. So, veggies are up for grabs. He won't jump up.
All right, is everybody happy? Did everybody get something to eat? Sherry and Paul, go ahead and dig in if you want something.
I'm just waiting to get hungrier.
Okay, good. Awesome.
You gotta be hungry
It's
in
your
a
choice.
place like this.
All right, so I think we're pretty much ready to roll here. Welcome everybody and thank you all for coming out and to our esteemed guests. Now, did everybody just get a little bit of a feeling who's here?
Yes.
Good, Sherry, of course, Sherry Ulrich, Paul Houston, John Reed. And without all their leadership and pioneering on this operation, we wouldn't be here. And everybody's very aware of all the different work they've done. Anyway, we're going to get into it a little bit further on that. If you had a chance to meet everybody, though?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, so the agenda, call the meeting to order, right after whatever. Approval of the agenda. Anybody have anything to add there?
We'd like to reorder it.
Sure.
So that we do the part that our guests are involved in first and everything else after.
Okay.
We wanted to switch 6 and 7.
Okay.
And I wanted to put 5 at the end after design and development so that John and Sherry and Paul don't have to sit through our reports.
Well, they may want to. I don't know.
Really?
Well, I don't know.
You may not want us to.
I didn't say you're not saying anything. I think it's interesting for you guys just to see how the process is sort of developing and that sort of thing. So it's your choice.
Okay.
So 6 and 7 is going to get switched around.
Yeah.
All right, and
And most of the action items we're
And then
going
5 after the new 7.
5 after 7.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see.
I'm going to turn the minutes off.
Oh, okay. Anybody like to move the approval? Hi, Melanie. You're gonna have to find a chair somewhere. We're kind of maxed out here. Just take one of those up.
You can squeeze it up here.
Cool.
Approval of the agenda as amended.
Well, can I add something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do we have an update from UBCM on there?
No, I was just gonna blab away.
Great. Gary did an awesome job at UBCM.
He did.
Highlight.
So add that to, do you want to do that first or?
I don't see.
Put it under finance, if you're talking about UBCM.
8.1?
Where have you got it? 3.1?
8.1?
Is it sort of just
Yeah, I think so. Sure.
hitting for funding?
Just leading and begging. Okay, so somebody want to move the approval of the agenda as amended? Is there any other amendments? Anybody? Everybody's good? Okay. Somebody run up that hand. Second. All in favor? Good. Thank you. Okay, the adoption of the minutes. Anybody have any errors or omissions in there that they have to bring forward from our last meeting?
I have to confess, I haven't read them.
Okay. Boy, that's where the confession goes to Allison.
Just do stuff.
Okay, somebody want to move the adoption of the minutes?
I think
September
Sydney
19th.
does.
Huh?
Sydney does.
Sydney,
Wow.
good.
It's top notch.
Or
Somebody,
Jacqueline did.
Jacqueline, okay, second, good, Kevin, and all in favor. Thank you, so we get to move on. Public comments, no such thing. Awesome. All right, so, yeah, so welcome again, once again, we've done a sort of informal, I don't think we have to go around, do you guys want to go around the table and do a quick thing, or?
It probably takes a fair bit of time to do
Yeah.
that. I mean, I think I have
So what I was thinking, if you guys are comfortable with it, if you could, and I think we'll go sort of in order here. Paul, obviously, has been at it for a million years now. I think the original pioneer on the whole deal. And if you just want to say something about process and how the thing has gone and where we're at.
Okay, I'll be quick. We have pretty high-powered people here in Sherry and
Yes.
and John. We wouldn't be here without these two people. So anyway, yeah, thank you for taking it again and taking it so far this time. It's never gone this far before. So I'm hopeful, and I just get a good feeling about this particular one. So I'm hoping to go forward. I have, of course, some suggestions, some background on why I'm making these suggestions, but I'll wait until that moment. Thanks everybody for
Excellent, thanks, Paul. And
carrying on.
yeah, yeah, the one thing is, the way I was going to ask you individually is where you saw your sort of projects fail or the demise of them, as it were, and what do you think we could do?
Sorry, if I could ask a question
Yeah.
of the guests
Yeah,
first.
and just, yeah.
I'm just wondering if everyone has had a chance to really see the schematic design and, you know, go through the document or see it online? Or,
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so everyone's familiar with the project?
Well, I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This document, I just
I
spent
thought
a
I'd
few
been-
Great,
hours.
okay, good.
Yeah.
yeah, and see if there was any hints about going forward and what were the pitfalls and why didn't it succeed? Like we've been at this a long time. And like I said, we want this to go ahead.
I
And,
can do that.
yeah.
Oh, we all might have our own perspective.
Well, and that's fine too, because that's what we need, is we need all the different perspectives and we need all the different energy and
Yeah, just
input,
as it serves.
because we're just going forward just like you guys did before, and we don't want to hit the same roadblocks you did.
Yeah, so I think it would be helpful.
Yeah.
Great,
Okay.
so
So,
changing, yeah.
I
Sure.
served as chair for 3 years, sort of accidentally, and we were dismissed by council and by a new council, and it became a committee of council. So one of the pitfalls has been momentum, and then a new council comes in and they have different ideas and they want to start over. So that's one potential pitfall, yeah. And the other was the price tag, which, as I recall, was the same, was it not? For the full meal deal,
Yeah.
it was the same, and there was a lot of kickback from the community, although it didn't get that far. And I think that as you're proceeding, your education of the public has been good, and that's really important, because of course in the absence of information is misinformation, and that's always a deadly thing. So yeah, I think that's probably what we ran into, and we would have kept going had we not been dismissed. And I can't speak to what the councillors' mentality was that made them do that, but it was both incredibly liberating and disappointing. I should say that in the opposite order.
You said one of the pitfalls in what we're doing maybe better this time is this in communications or engagement process. And I think that's been very important to the steering committee in this round. And it could probably always be better. So, you acknowledged or recognized and been following and seen that it's better, but how could it be even better? Because maybe it isn't good enough.
Oh, gosh. Well, I would have to confess that until I went to VoteFest and saw the spread and how far it had gone, because it was such an investment of 3 years of my life, when I walked away, I really walked away, like from everything in the community, and I just dove into career only, which has been great. So there have been things that have happened before that that I wasn't even aware of. So I don't really feel like I can speak to that. Just the more the better.
Can Paul and
Well,
John answer the same question? I think that's helpful for me to understand, because I think communications is where projects fall.
Absolutely.
And we're all going to rise and fall together because we're a team. So.
Oh my God! Already, I just.
So
Get the fall part.
Well, I'll just say that the CFWG, which John chaired, we had really good communication. We also had a very, very broad stakeholder input. We had an amazing weekend where we dealt with things like governance, with design, with stakeholder input, with all sorts of stuff. So that particular process was really superior, I thought. I thought we did incredible work on that. I was very surprised it didn't go forward. Probably it was the scale of the thing that freaked people out. But yeah, communication, we communicated well on that committee, so I wouldn't say that it wasn't done well before. But up until VoteFest, it was very few people knew what this group was up to, you know, because I had to go searching for the meetings and stuff like that. I don't come to these meetings, but it would have been possible for me to come if I had been aware of them. So I think that the VoteFest moment seems to have turned the corner in terms of new people putting it out to the public and the public being more aware of it. You know, and I've had to explain to a lot of people what's, Peter Frank, people like that who've been freaked out what's going on. So I've been one telling them, well, go here, go there, look for it. So communication is absolutely important, especially going forward. Not putting out information before it's really well vetted is important. But you know, you make mistakes and you correct those mistakes. So right now, I think you're at the point where you're refining what you've got. You've already gone to the public slightly, and you're going to go to the public more. And I would be really I'd be really proactive on that.
So it's not just these meetings which are open to the public, but get in the face of the public.
And the quality of what you're putting out is, I haven't heard one whisper of complaining or dissent or questioning. It's very high quality and very thorough.
I've got to admit, I, like you, walked away. I walked away 10 years ago and haven't looked at this thing at all until Steph made me do it overnight. So I didn't go to VoteFest. I had no idea, and just got so many other things to do, and I did that for 2 years, and we left, and Paul was on my committee. There was a significant political upheaval that went beyond the work we were doing. There was community groups working on surplus lands, on sustainability, on master plans of the Cove, of this rec center, and we were caught up in all of that. Just at the time when the politics went, whoa, this is Bowen Island, where the hell are we going all of a sudden? Like, all these things got set off on a trajectory of sustainability that was going to require high density and all this stuff, and bang.
So overextended priorities in capital.
The council of the day, we're not doing that anymore. So it kind of dropped the work we were doing, as well as many other things. And on top of that, you know, I'll never forget, Peter, if you're watching on the camera.
It's not working, speaking of
the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
You know, Peter was our biggest ally. He was our liaison on the committee all the way through. Everything was fabulous until the end. And then it was $10 million, Taj Mahal. And then council went to, well, we got to build something for $1 million or $2 million.
It was 3.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
Okay, 3. So it was like a quarter of what we'd been thinking for the last 2 years. And granted, it was ambitious. But that was what everybody was telling us, and we were reining ourselves in all the time. A running joke with Paul about containing things. But, you know, I'm really, really impressed. Once I looked at this, 10 years later, same price, reduced footprint, better use of space, and the climate, 10 million is nothing. 10 million, in my opinion, was nothing 10 years ago, but it certainly was to the community, and no belief that you could actually raise funds. Well, we've just raised 4 million for a treatment plant. The government, you know, suddenly in the last year or term, government money is starting to come our way, and things are happening. A lot of things are happening, and this is a very conservative approach to what we need. Nobody's going to look at this and say, you're wasting space. Ours kind of got dropped off.
It's very conservative space.
Oh,
we know.
Yeah, it's, you know, one of the issues where if we didn't stop, where we were headed was, okay, we've got to get into the operational plan. We need a business plan. We need to operate this thing. And we need the municipal hall. It's funding, all the things that are already written in here, but the staff too, you know, so you can open and close the thing, not have to run into another building.
We're laughing because we just left that conversation seconds ago. So
yeah, so
we're right on track again.
It's all here now. It actually feels better to me because it is smaller.
Still got your living room.
Oh, I know.
That's John's idea.
But if it's too big, you know, if it's too big in a small community, it's empty, and you just feel like you're wandering around in a big house with nobody there. This feels good. So I like that. My one caution, there's a couple of things, and I might be rambling on.
No, go ahead, John.
I was a big, you know, proponent for recreation on the committee. Paul was arts, I was rec, and the community always has had, and maybe not so much now, I don't know, but back then it was arts rec, because we had a Parks and Rec Commission that had arts in it, and it was who gets what, and don't give too much to one and not the other, and so it was a bit of a tug-of-war all the time. So it was a fear, as I was chair of this committee, that we got to deliver to both, or one side of the community is going to shut us down. Because we lived, there was some history in the past where the one on the library lot that got turned down, and I actually voted against it when I just got to this community because there was nothing in it for rec. And if the arts got theirs,
Too small for the arts too.
yeah, and if they got theirs, they're never going to vote again for mine. So let's do one this time that's for both of us. And that's the caution I want to express today. And I'm not saying, well, what's missing for me is the gym. There's no gymnasium in this thing. And to me, I'm not saying we need a gymnasium today. I think this is a really good start, and this will do for now. But if you're going to start, and I don't feel like the public consultation has really begun yet. I think that's about to start. And those are the questions that are going to come back. Where's the recreational component of this thing? I actually, my personal goal was to sit in the living room and
Have a cup of coffee and watch your kids go ball.
yeah, oh, and that's not there. Emotional.
Can I ask John?
Anyway, I just want to clear this up. You have to put it into the future plan. There has to be this schematic with wherever it goes, you know, over there, ... expansion plans. And you'll have my vote, or whatever, you know, be happy with it, knowing that it is in the future. But if you just cut out a certain group in the community and say, well, we don't care. You know, 10 years ago, the community center, it was Colleen at the time, we're getting squeezed out of the school gym, you know, the increase and we're getting squeezed out. Well, this is 10 years later. I don't believe that it's any worse or any less. It's probably more, and it certainly will be 10 years forward. So I just don't see an answer for that. And if I'm a community member, and it doesn't take much, I'm going to flare up about but give them hope, show them where it will fit in. Maybe you're in the weight room and you're looking out the windows down onto the gymnasium in the future. That will be all you need. I don't think there's expectations really for hockey rinks and ice rinks. I think that's just, we got to admit we're an island, we can't afford all that. But a gymnasium, you know, is not an uncommon thing to see in a community or rec center. And if it's another 2 million or 3 million, you know, and I'm sure you've been capped by, probably Gary said 10 million, that's it?
No.
Nobody capped at 10? Well then,
What's the problem?
We were looking realistically at what
We had a lot of people at GoFest wondering where the pool was.
That's right.
yeah.
Where the what?
The pool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've still got the use of the school gym
Yeah.
after school and on weekends and
Yeah.
evenings. So
I know.
all those things you're talking about are ages of the kids that would be using them, are kids that would use them after school, and family, parents in the evenings and on the weekends. So do we need a separate gym?
I think you do. I mean, that's
That's
where we
hard.
arrived, and that's, you know,
Can
the
I
number.
just, like, double advocate here? I'm seeing a lot more programming coming through in the gym. Has something changed there? Just like on Facebook and stuff, there seems to be more going on for adults. Like there's squash now, not squash, pickleball, and but
In the
it'll-
gym?
drop-in stuff. So I'm just,
There'll be a lot more things that come up if you have the space too.
Yeah,
but I'm just
You know,
wondering
I've
what's
got
the
things I
usage
want to do.
for.
the usage is,
So
it
back
hasn't
then-
really changed, I don't think. There's always been a couple nights of badminton, there's, it kind of ebbs and flows depending on who we have to facilitate programs, what the interest is. So, I know they're trying to get basketball going again, and but the gym is booked. It's
Okay.
always
I
been
think,
booked, and I think
Is
that,
it?
you know, with winter coming, it gets more booked. And,
Okay.
you know,
so, yeah, between 3 and 9.
There's not
most.
much leeway at all.
There's
So
not a lot of
would you
leeway.
say that's already kind of at capacity?
I would say we're running it at capacity, yes.
I think to the broader context, what I'm hearing about, John, is that two pieces. We weren't capped. We strategically are picking a number which we believe is achievable within the community for this round. And the second piece is, and we've recognized it in multiple forms, whether it's a pool or whatnot, that this has to be a catalyst for the growth of services within the area, and show that there's possibilities for future development based on well-defined data, research, input, saying here's how rec is growing in the community, and this is the business case for justifying additional square footage of capital real estate on the island. And so I think we're trying to address both of those, so that's good to hear you say that, because now we know how to improve upon that, developing this project plan, but also making the dash lines for the future, which are very easy to do dash lines that are just a communications piece. One of the things that we've touched on, and maybe I ramble too, is that we've developed a Q&A document, a question and answers piece that's live on our internet already. And I think the future expandability piece and the sustainability piece are things we need to touch on and address in this next phase of design development.
We've talked about the idea of expansion and showing it from a communications point of view in order to acknowledge what we've heard from the community in terms of a need. But what we were also very wary of doing is showing somebody future expansion that isn't actually proven out. Just because, you know, you see, oh, well, we could put the gym over here, but currently that land is actually accounted for in somebody else's plan, and so we didn't want to step on any other toes in terms of showing future expansion to say, so that just as a way of saying, it's not the first time we've come across the idea of future expansion. There's a reason why we didn't show it,
The site
because
has
it
a-
needs
site
just
has
as
a-
much consideration as the current building does. So
And that
it's
being
more
said,
on the radar now, I think.
as those other projects integrate with this project, I mean, I've worked with a lot of developers that develop gym space as part of their development. So there is opportunities. We just don't know what that project's goals and objectives are yet from a
If we could
housing
talk to
or
a developer maybe.
So,
One of the reasons I think you heard John and Gary and I laugh was we had a community lands committee meeting yesterday. And one of the issues raised that we're going to be discussing again at a meeting again next week is master planning of that whole area.
That lot, the
and
entire
then-
lot too.
Yeah, not only Lot 2, but including Bowen Court and
Yes.
to some degree Snow Cove House. And this was an idea that John brought up, which I think really dovetails well with what we're talking about phase 2 here.
So
that's
if we're
what we
gonna
can-
get in, we gotta
Glad
get
you
in
said
now.
that, because I wasn't allowed to.
Deja vu?
and at the same time, just to bring it back into context, and like you said, you and Paul trying to, one of my main objectives is to try and keep the boundaries around this project pretty tight, so we don't go out of control with Scope Creek
And we get it done.
and go overboard.
No, I
So
think,
we have to recognize those things, but keep on target.
But fight for your space,
yes,
because that process is coming, and Gary's fully aware that you need room for expansion. You know, parking, I don't need to tell you, there's an issue here.
Yeah.
There's 14 cars in the parking lot right now. That takes up, I don't know how many we got, it's probably half of them are gone just for a day like today. So, fight for your space, you're gonna need it for expansion, for parking, things like that. So that's my main thing, you know, because I know there's a group out there in the community, whether they can have it today or 10 years from now, they're gonna want to know it's part of the plan. So don't do too much work, but be able to honestly say, it's been thought about it, and this is the space, and maybe this was how it could integrate into it.
Just maybe a little bit more on the current plan. Maybe kudos to Shauna, because she has actually been very active in advocating for rec, and at one point there was probably half of that fitness center area that was identified as future expansion, partly because, you know, wanting to contain the scope of the project, ensure that we're not biting off too much at the beginning. But Shauna really demonstrated that, like you're saying, you know, in order to balance the needs of the community, that space really, it's needed right now in order to accommodate all the other rec facilities that are gonna not be available.
Yeah.
So there has been some movement to try to keep that balance.
Just to maybe underscore what Craig is saying, the other thing we've been trying to do, and this goes to something Sherry said earlier, is manage expectations. If you'll note that the program for the building is less than 50% of what it was when you were looking at the building. And that's coming from Sam and coming from the committee, was a beginning step in managing those expectations. If the building is too big, if the budget is too out of whack, it's gonna go off the rails really quickly. So that managing of expectations is important. So while we even included in our document at one point a comment about a possible future pool, and we're kind of like, whoa, you know, going to be, you know, really cautious. A pool will cost more than this building will cost. So having said that, you know, we'd love to see we would love to see the ability to show future phases or future phase of a bigger building, because we think this building is going to be full and busy the day it opens.
Yep.
It'll be busting out of its seams. So, so that's sort of the good news and the bad news at the same time. We have had this limited mandate, as Craig said, limited by the size of the site given to us and by the size of the program given to us. So if we get a larger mandate as a design group, we're more than happy to take that on.
Yeah.
If I can just interject, I think maybe a sort of an interim step would be if the council members here, if we could just work on getting space, you know, some space designated for expansion. If even we could just show that on a plan,
oh, absolutely.
I think that would be a
Well, we're not, you know, fortunately, we have control of that to a reasonable extent at this point in time. So we just have to make sure that we keep our eye on the ball. And that's something we're gonna discuss this afternoon is future expansion plans. Anyway, as far as sort of the opening comments there in the introduction, thank you very much, you guys. And to your point, Paul, this is the start of the public consultation. You know, we had the little mini one at GoFest, but this is going to be the start of it, and you're going to see a lot of stuff going on. I'm hoping there'll be a nice big sign up there at some point in time, you know, and get everybody
Wash
pumped
the
up.
old one.
Yeah.
Put some
Yeah.
street notes on it.
As Paul said, I have a really good feeling about this. I'm
Oh, that's
really
good.
encouraged. It feels
Yeah.
like it's being done right every step of the way.
Yeah, we've had lots of accolades at UBCM, and we were just touching on that. But I'll get back to that, Sherry, to your point about it's unfortunate what happened in that situation. But I think we have council behind us 100%. You know, at this point in time, and getting more enthusiastic. Getting more enthusiastic.
I think the whole
And you-
community, the timing's way better.
Yeah.
The size is right, the price is right,
Yeah.
just everything is.
Like I said, you know,
But make
we've
sure you don't
outgrown the
exclude
Legion.
people,
That's-
you know, and don't make people feel left out.
Something for everybody.
But my
Yeah.
word of caution, and I've heard it from all three of you, is the politics.
Yes.
And the changes in council. And we have an election that's a year away. So that means we effectively have 6 months to really get momentum going before there's a lot of positioning.
Wow.
And I think,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, I think the
No,
community is
ultimately,
supportive of this,
yeah.
but we need to get as far ahead in the process as we can to keep
That's
that momentum.
been one of my issues all along, having been here through all the ups and downs. And as Sherry said, you get to a change, and all of a sudden, and it happened with the land use bylaw, and it happened, you know, and to hear us having a master plan for the thing, I just went, oh, deja vu, we already had a Snutco Village master plan, and it had the whole area laid out. That's, my hope had been all along that we would get to a point before we got to October 2018, where it couldn't possibly be reversed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
ultimately
we had
where
the
I'd like to
grant,
see
we
it.
had a shovel, you know,
Yeah, the money's in place, the
yeah,
decisions are
and
made,
so that it couldn't be reversed.
can't be rolled back.
People are
If you
elected
want to
based on their
communicate
support.
on Bowen with the public, I think one of the simplest things you can do is have an open house on site where you've staked and flagged this site. Here's the building, you're standing in this room, you're over there, that's what you're gonna look at.
That'll be part of
And it's so
it.
easy to do, and everybody will come to play. And that will get them excited.
What's interesting in Switzerland, whether it's an addition or whether it's a new building, they stake all the corners of the building, and they go up to the exact height that's going to go to the roof.
Oh.
The corner is shown with two pieces of wood that are going off in other directions.
Yeah.
And you know exactly, you can see the volume of the building where it's going to be. You can stand in a room. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what they do out at UBC as well, with those
Yeah.
sizes.
Very neat.
That's
They
right.
basically
Yeah.
draw a line
So
in
there's
the
no
air
question.
of the outline of the building.
And what you guys said in virtual reality?
But
Yeah, yeah.
You can come with goggles and.
So I had one last question, because I sense Gary's trying to get
Sure.
rid of it.
No, we've got more to go through.
Oh, okay, the coffee shop. To me, if I want reasons to sit in the living room
So you want-
and feel like I belong there, and what are you doing here? You're not doing this stuff. No, I'm here having a coffee or reading a paper or whatnot. So to have the coffee, if I'm reading this right, the coffee shop's down the hall, isolated by itself. Why can't it be
It's a kiosk, not a
Here.
shop.
and, you know, access into there to isolate it from there, but it's all here. It just feels like there's more going on in the living room. It's just
Here's
minor thing.
On the other hand, just to speak to
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
potentially you might easily be parking in the back parking lot and entering through the other door. We effectively
Grab
have two
your coffee on
entries,
the way in.
and then the coffee shop is on your way in.
Yeah, but there's a person, I assume, there's a person
Yeah.
sitting there by themselves at the back door waiting for someone to sell a coffee to, versus a person, I sit in the chair in the living room and I talk to that person, if they got nothing better to do. You're isolating
Good point.
uses, and I think we need activity. It's like in pattern language, they talk about when you have a square, if you can't overhear somebody talking in the same room, then you can't break into their conversations.
My husband gets very annoyed at me for doing that.
And the beauty of all this is I get to listen to everything going on in Municipal Hall. I see,
I think you should run the coffee shop.
We just
Oh,
got a
because if it's
job
up
for
front,
it.
eh?
You already listen to everything that goes on in municipal.
The coffee shop was actually a late arrival. It's been a bit of a question about
I
keeping
think-
in the program.
We have
Used to
had
be the-
actually that discussion about where that might be, and that conversation might actually go further once we kind of confirm whether that component of work is really in the project from day one, or whether we need to reserve it as a future thing. At the moment,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a
Coffee
future
all
thing.
have it as a volunteer run, they get the money,
Well, this,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that small, but it's the excuse for the seniors, and that's the other thing. So the
Yeah.
seniors down at Bone Court, when it grows and they walk level, because it's 3 stories up on Bone Court, walks right into your community center, and those seniors are gonna wanna go somewhere. And if there's a coffee shop, they got a reason to go there.
There will be a coffee shop, probably.
Yeah.
Good. Just where it is. Anyway, to your point, John, about expansion plans, we've run that back and forth 100 times. I was a big advocate. I was the advocate of saying, you know, we gotta say something about the future, the pool in the future, and, you know, we're gonna keep some room for it. And it was about expectations, and so we gotta be very careful about actually saying things are gonna happen.
Yeah, well, I personally, I end it at gym.
Yeah,
Pools,
well, gym,
and
pool.
those are just so far. There's
Pools
no-
and ice rinks.
We are
Even if you
very-
had the money, you couldn't put it there, there's no room.
And the thing you'll see, or you maybe read between the lines, looking through the document and at the drawings, is what we've tried to do is we've tried to make almost all of the spaces multi-use spaces, so that nothing sits idle.
Yeah, it
Right.
shows, for sure.
And that we even did the scenarios as a way of kind of looking at how the building might be used at different times of the day, different days of the week, all of those things. So there really is this sense, even, there will not be a council chamber per se, there will be a room that will be used for council meetings, and other times you can rent it. So we're really trying to look at the building